Welcome, and today I wanted to share a little video that adds to another video that I made on free energy and unlimited free energy, and how the old world understood how to harness and utilize this free energy. And all of our churches and cathedrals and the most glorious buildings of the old times all incorporated this. And within the last 100 years, for whatever reason, what seems to actually be a catastrophe of some sort, involving a lot of mud. But regardless, for whatever reason, we lose this technology completely. And we're left scratching our heads. And in very recent times, we are beginning to understand. And what we thought was art was not only art, but was also technology. Technology in which we inherited, but it would be at least 100 years before we would understand its implications. And here we can actually see how it's functioning, just next level. I think it's just an amazing depiction. Well, I think it adds to the simplicity of that other video that I translated. But this is the next level. And the magnetron, now this ties into the Fasces, or the Fasces, however you want to pronounce it. And you can see, again, these antennas. I mean, these have nothing to do with religion, and everything is perfect. The symmetry, and even as he's describing here in the captions, you know, the different layers of copper, and even incorporating mercury, and completely thought out, just like the architecture itself is perfect. Not any detail is left out. Well, it's the same with the functionality of this. Why would they leave out the functionality? And we've been led, again, you can see even in the background here, just one after another after another. And we've been sold the idea that these are just ornamentation and just, and it's hard to refute that because they are gorgeous. They are absolutely gorgeous. And the builders not only incorporated the function, but they absolutely incorporated the form. And here now he's showing speakers and just resonators, how this tech has been all around us all this time, and all we've gotten is the faintest little fragments of it, and perhaps some of the worst parts. This also ties into simple microwaves, and at the end of the video there'll be a depiction of how microwave technology is actually using this very same thing. And, you know, it brought me back to the idea that I realize after watching this video, and especially these Russian kids at the end that just make these devices that I'll show you, and really fascinating, out of a microwave, and basically employing this same technology. And I think what it brought me back to was how I made the video on the nuclear power hoax, and, you know, how we've been sold nuclear power, but yet we've also been taught to fear it, and to not understand it, and perhaps even to dislike it. For a reason, for a great reason. And suddenly I realize it's the very same thing with the microwave. And how I again have despise the microwave, and yet, I think I'd been conditioned. I mean, in one way we'd been sold on it and conditioned of its practicalities, and then later in life I was conditioned to resent it and never use one, and by doing so, now I was unwilling to see what kind of technologies existed within this, and the potential that it could be. Absolutely amazing. And so one would naturally question the idea of, if you have these shapes and these natural resonators built into your buildings and your ornamentation and everything, well, don't you need to store the power? Like if you were using a solar system, you need to store that power in batteries so that you can use it at night. But I believe that this technology, similar to Tesla technology, which he described, would not require sunlight. It would be powered naturally, atmospherically. It's a natural principle that's harnessed day and night, and it's inexhaustible. It doesn't mean that you couldn't employ storage of it, and I think there's a mystery there. A lot of these structures and so-called cathedrals and even pyramids have water under them, and some even have different chemicals, and some have mercury, and some have different stones, and the chambers are lined with different rare stones that don't even come from those areas. So the idea of battery harnessing and storage or amplification is definitely a possibility, but not absolutely necessary. And here is an excellent, excellent depiction of basically the end of an era. And it seems as if there was, as if this propaganda to eradicate the ancient world had definitely been sown into the current populace that we see here. And, 150 years would pass before we would wake up again. I mean, Tesla tried to give us this 100 years ago and was greatly suppressed. And perhaps the people were not ready at the time. Perhaps they were still angry at the old world. I don't know, looking at those old images. But now here is the microwave experiments. And again, like I said, I was the biggest anti-microwave person, and still am. I don't think we should be microwaving our food. I mean, even experiments have shown that if you microwave water and, let it cool and water your plants, the plants will not do well, if not completely die. And it actually changes the structure, and as it should. I mean, it's a waveform. But now here is what they're calling the magnetron. Again, this is new to me. But of course it would probably be stacked magnets and pumping a charge through it and directing it. Now he's turned on the microwave and, just out in the open air, that magnetron, the thing that would normally exist shielded in the microwave. And what they were saying is they felt no ill effects. And, pretty wild, pretty bold of them, but I appreciate their research, that's for sure. But this really shows you that now we're looking at Tesla power. This is what Tesla was doing in the early 1900s. I mean, he was walking around his property in Colorado Springs, illuminating light bulbs wherever. And look at this. This is showing the effects. This is really fascinating. I mean, so he's put this can on it now to direct that magnet. I mean, how simple. Look, now he fired up the microwave and he's pointing it at cell phones. I don't know, maybe 10 seconds. Boom. and absolutely fascinating. This, to me, is a modern Fash or Fasces. I mean, this is that technology. Now, I think in this application, the only thing that's missing is utilizing free energy. Here I'm sure they're, powering their microwave with power. But yet this is the front end, This is the potential of this magnet technology. And again, that we've just been given the faintest, slightest husk of to warm our food. And now in a controlled application, these are all extreme situations. These are just kids having fun and really pushing the limits. But now you back any of these off a little bit, and you have a controlled situation. I mean, they're doing excellent experimentation. They're seeing how far they can go until the machinery breaks down. Now, he says at this part that he got a lot of requests to point it at an old tube TV, and yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, there are some kids that have just invented a Fasces with a microwave. And again, all we're lacking is the generation of it, and we're not missing it. I mean, all these older technologies show us this. And that's what these old churches and cathedrals and buildings, and that's what they're doing. Their simple shapes of symmetry are gathering energy. Now I think maybe what is missing is the storage of this energy. So now we have the output. Now we see how a Fasces could work. We have the output. We have the input. We're gathering energy. But all we're missing now is the gathering or storage of this energy. And perhaps it's as simple as a modern battery, and batteries have come a long way, and yet even in ancient Egypt we see an Egyptian battery, and they were doing batteries with copper and a vessel with perhaps a vinegar and acid on one side, and it can be done, and it was done, and I think we can make it better.